Thank you so much to the Balmoral Hotel, first of all, for giving this fantastic room today for us to host the podcast in. Really nice facilities here. Those who don't know me, I am Craig Thompson. I'm an organizational culture consultant. I work with organizations to help them to create experiences of work that people want to be part of.
So I am Philip Brady. I'm an executive coach and speaker. And I kind of facilitate leadership programs around the world. And we're in the Balmoral this morning, who kindly gave us a beautiful set and facility for today's conversation. And I'm joined by Craig Thompson.
We had a coffee, I guess it probably was about 2 years ago. And I've always been a follower of what you do. I listened to your podcast and had you come and speak at the Vibrant Workplace Forum a couple of months ago as well. You mentioned that you're a speaker. You're not just a speaker. You're one of the best speakers. You're as good as any speaker that I've seen. I really enjoyed what you did at the forum a couple of months ago. Loved your energy, loved your passion. And that was a big part of why I wanted to do the podcast with you today.
Yeah, and fitting a 2-hour keynote into 14 minutes.
Do you know what? This actually influenced my thinking for the next event, though, because I've only given them 15 minutes, the speakers at the next event now, because actually, maybe you're like this anyway, but there was so much energy, and passion would have been there anyway, but there was so much energy and there was a real pace to the talk that you did at the forum. And it made me think, does shortening the talk make people, does it give them a bit more pace, a bit more energy, and does it make them focus and almost be a little bit more concise with what they want to say?
Can I respond?
Yeah, please do.
I would say yes, and there's a cost. So the cost is we haven't given people an experience that is different to their day-to-day.
Yeah.
We've just slotted them back into what BAU is.
Yeah.
And if we keep people there and don't give them the opposite to get a sensation of what it means to be slow, thoughtful, relaxed, not at pace, not hurried.
Yeah.
Like that sensation of being unhurried as a contrast to hurried and relentless expectations, not just as the speaker, as the audience, I mean.
Yeah.
We can then titrate more of that and recovery so that we can be more thoughtful when we enter back into the pace.
Yeah.
So there's a benefit,
but
there's a cost as well.
You still managed to make your talk practical and interactive, which interests me because I think a lot of people, if they were told, you've only got this time, they would get up there and they would just try and ram it home, say as much as possible in the time that's available. You had pace to yours, you had energy to yours, you had personality and character to what you said, but you still didn't sacrifice making it an experience for the people. So what was behind that for you? Because clearly it was by design.
Learning doesn't happen from sage on the stage, right? If I talked at you for 14 minutes, because I can do that, I could do it for 2, 3, 5 days. That's unhelpful. If I involve you in the experience more, and then give you the content to latch onto your experience. You're changed, I'm changed, we're changed. And learning is based on what we care about, and our own lived experience is what we care most about. So if I don't include that, it's my ego, because it's my content that's taking priority over your experience. And I want to give people experiences.
Yeah. And I guess the telltale sign of that is, are they on their phones? Are they checking social media? Are they sending emails? And you had everybody gripped throughout that. So I am going to give you a little bit of a plug. If anybody is looking for a keynote speaker, do reach out to Philip, because he's really good. But look, it's a little bit different today, obviously, because we've got your audience, we've got my audience. Some people won't know me, some people won't know you. So for those who haven't tuned into your podcast before, don't know your background, why do you do what you do, and what brought you to doing it?
So I'm getting goosebumps again. So when I was 12, have you heard this part of the story?
I don't think I've heard the from you were 12 part of the story, no.
Oh, right. So when I was 12, we were in Navan. So I know the sitting room where this conversation took place, and it was with a friend of mine, somebody really close to me who was suicidal. And I cried. I remember the tears on the floor. I had no answers to what they were struggling with. And I had two things. I could be present and I could ask questions.
And you were thinking about that as a 12-year-old?
I was called wise
Yeah.
as like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes wisdom is adulting earlier than your childhood
Yeah.
uh, should have been that long or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So from that, I learned those two things, and that's why I became a coach. I thought about therapy and becoming a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
but I was more oriented towards it's happened, what might we do now?
Mm.
So a lot of my work now is focused on how present can we be with what is,
Yeah.
to then intentionally just take the next step.
Yeah.
And the next step might be, here's the next decade, or it might be, no, here's the next moment, the next action. So I've studied personal development, leadership development, gatherings of people for 26 years. And that's why I do what I do. I want to be with people no matter what they're experiencing. And if I give it a different layer, I mean, the human experience, I want people to not judge themselves against what they're seeing, which is only the bright side of other people's experience. We're denying people the humanity, which is sometimes in the shadow. And I want to be able to be with that myself, for myself, with myself, but also be able to give people that same environment. And if I can do that, it's going to sound a bit woo-woo, but it's just love. And most people don't experience love enough. And can I keep talking?
Please do, yeah.
I did a talk recently, and there was a child psychologist in the room, and with circumstance, I had to bring Jack and Katie to the talk. Katie looked after Jack while I was doing the talk, while she was on a training course in another room.
Okay.
The child psychologist, I was holding Jack at the time, she said, that kid is really securely attached. And she said, what that does forever for that kid is profound. Yeah. She spends most of her time fixing that.
Yeah.
And it shows up in the workplaces. All our reactions under stress, the dark side, are because of childhood.
Yeah.
I don't judge it anymore. I have an understanding and an empathy and a compassion for it. But if less of that played out in the workplace, I think it'd be a nicer place to be. Which takes us to...
Well, before we come on to my stuff, there's so much you've said there that I do want to explore, and some of it will come up through the conversation that we have. I want to come back to the dark side, right,
Yes.
in a moment. But something that I think about a lot is, you touched on it there, the difference between therapy and coaching. So you made a conscious choice to go, it's the coaching route that I want to go. So what do you consider? Because I think a lot of people will be listening and going, so what is the distinction between the two?
So I qualified as a coach in 2013. And initially, as you start as a coach, your line is very clear and defined. Anything that sounds too emotional or historic or greater than your capacity at the time to be with, go to a therapist. But if you came to me and you said, Philip, I'm really struggling with something, and I said to you, go to a therapist, the message you might experience is, I'm bad. What I experience is bad, and it makes you less than.
Yeah.
My work now is, the line that I heard that made me very peaceful about this is, it's not therapy, but it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
And in my coaching, I've been able to develop myself through, I've so much work I've done on me, and I'm still getting with people like mentors, training books, hundreds of hours of development over like a decade, probably like thousands of books.
Yeah.
I can be with most of what comes at me.
Yeah.
I'm in therapy, so I can see the difference, but I'm very willing to have somebody now be with what comes up, and then thinking about what might we do with that. So I've had some of the most vulnerable stuff shared with me, and now I can just be with it.
Yeah.
And the message that they get is, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I don't tell them, it's a loving presence that I try to bring. You're okay. Everything relaxes. The little child in them relaxes and feels safe.
Yeah.
And that your experience is okay and I can be with it.
Yeah.
And then you would be amazed at what becomes possible.
Yeah.
So the line is very clear at the start. So the easiest distinction is why you do what you do.
Yeah.
Therapy. what we might do next,
Yeah.
coaching.
And it's not therapy, but it's therapeutic. The way that you put it, I
So
absolutely love that.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. You're a very wise guy. And from, not even just a man, but from childhood, being a 12-year-old and being able to have the presence of mind to know what your options were in that really difficult moment.
Mm.
And it's interesting because what you're talking about is how a lot of who we are and what we do comes from our experiences in childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know exactly how to sum this up in a concise way, but I know that I had this feeling when I was growing up of almost heartache, okay? Whereby I looked at the world and I looked at people that I cared about. I looked at family members and they were just working themselves into the ground.
Mm.
And it really emotionally affected me.
Mm.
And a lot of my family members were self-employed actually, but, ones who were in employment as well. But, looking at, I never wanted to be self-employed. I actively did not want to be self-employed because I saw family members who would have to chase payments for sometimes 6 or 7 months at a time on the verge of, not being able to keep their homes
Yeah.
and stuff like that for work that they had already done. And that disgusted me. But I just looked at people working themselves into the ground and I looked at the physical tax that had on them and the emotional tax that it had on them. And it made me so emotional that I wanted to cry. And I thought, this is not right. Um, it's not something that I consciously think about. So it came up because of what you talked about there. But I wonder what legacy that left that led to the work that I do today.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you think? What do you think about it?
I don't know why it was such an issue for me. I don't know why that emotionally affected me. So maybe it was because maybe I wasn't getting enough from the loved ones that were around me. I spent a lot of my time on my own.
Yeah.
And, when I was growing up, and maybe that was part of what influenced it. Maybe I wanted them to be there more.
I'm getting goosebumps.
um, so yeah, there's definitely a legacy from that for what I do. And also probably reinforced by, unfortunately, what some people who have been to some of my events will know, but people who listen to the podcast and haven't been to my events probably don't know. I really struggled a lot in my mid-teens through to my early 20s to mid-20s with my own mental health.
Mm.
And I lived a life that I didn't want to live.
Mm.
And it brought me to a point where one night in my late teens, I went for a walk. I was at university at the time, and I actually wrote a note for my housemates, and I went for a walk. And I kind of felt like that was the end for me. I didn't have a plan for exactly what I was going to do, but I remember it was cold, it was wet, it was dark, it was windy, and I just walked and walked, and eventually I came to this building that had a sort of spiral staircase up the outside of it, and I climbed up to the top of that, and I ended up sitting on the edge of the building, and I lowered myself down off the edge, and I asked myself, did I want to let go?
Mm.
And I didn't let go, but the only reason that I didn't let go was because I didn't want to leave that legacy for people who I knew did love me. It wasn't that I felt like people didn't love me.
Yeah.
I couldn't reconcile life. It just didn't feel good for me.
Mm.
And so I sort of dangled there for a bit, and then I pulled myself back up and I sat on the edge of this roof for about 45 minutes in the rain, just empty. And actually, a friend rang me, and he doesn't know this. I've never had this conversation with him, but a friend rang me, and I'm guessing that somebody had found that note, even though it was the middle of the night. Um, and he rang, and the reason I think someone must have found the note is because he just talked to me, but he didn't ask me where I was or what I was doing. And he must have known because the wind would have been howling,
Mm.
And he just talked to me and just kept me talking. Never asked me where I was, what I was doing, anything that was going on. We just spoke for 45 minutes. And after 45 minutes, I was bloody freezing. And I went, right, listen, I'm going to go now. I'll see you tomorrow. And he didn't even try and keep me on the phone. You know,
Yeah.
he just, I think he maybe knew that I'd kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say come to my senses because it sounds almost disrespectful to people who are in that moment, maybe going through those kind of feelings today. But I'd come around and I did just go back to my apartment then. And the thing was, after that point, I never felt that temptation again. Um, it wasn't that I now was living a life that I wanted to live. I was still miserable. I still had loads of problems with anxiety, self-doubt, and depression. Every day was a struggle. But I felt like I had literally been to the edge and I'd asked myself that question and it wasn't the answer for me, so I was never tempted again. But it's sort of, I almost feel like it's risky even to tell that story because the message that you might take from that is you have to go to your edge and ask yourself that question. And it actually breaks my heart that I had to go to the edge and ask myself that question because the next couple of years were still really crap for me. But eventually I got to a point where I knew that I didn't want to end my life, but I also knew I didn't want to keep living the way that I was living.
Yeah.
And at that point, I then, out of desperation, I was so exhausted of feeling the way that I did every day. I started to look for things that could help me. And I remember the first thing was I came across do you know Tony Robbins? Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first self-development book I got as a teenager from my mum.
Yeah. So for me, it was an audio course. It was this 30-day audio course of his called Personal Power 2. And every day you listen to this little recording, and at the end of the recording, he gives you a homework exercise. And it was simple things like, you know, to create power questions and put them on the inside of your wardrobe. So you get up in the morning, and the first thing you're doing is you're asking yourself questions like, what opportunities might today present for me? And it's to put you in a more, you know, energized and positive frame of mind and see the opportunities in the day ahead and how to make it a good day. So I came across that, I did that, and that was the start of a shift for me. I got to the end of that and I lamented the fact that that was the end. And I was like, but I need more, I want more. And then I came across a book and this was the biggest transformation for me. It was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Have you read
Susan
that one?
Jeffers.
Susan Jeffers, brilliant book. Yeah.
Don't read the book, just read the title.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, there's every
Read the book.
chapter, read the book. Every chapter in that book is looking at different tools and techniques and stories, etc. And I'm sure if you read the book and Ross, who's here with us, read the book, everybody would take something different from it. The tool that spoke to me was called the Whole Life Grid. And for those who haven't read it, it's kind of this 9-box grid, and you try and fill the grid with different areas of focus in your life to build a fulfilling life that you want to live. And for a lot of people, when they first go to do that, they realize that their life is empty. It hasn't got any, they have things that they do, but they're not fulfilling things. They go to work, but they maybe work in a crap job that they don't enjoy and doesn't give them any fulfillment. They come home, they sit down and they watch crap, negative TV where someone's always getting killed or shot, or their business is burnt down, or they've gone bankrupt, or their relationship's ending. There's never anything to go, isn't this inspiring? You know? So they don't have this fulfilling life. And that's where I was when I started to try and complete this whole life grid. I realized my life was totally empty. There's nothing fulfilling about it. And that's daunting because now you're looking at this blank canvas and you're going, I don't even know where to start. And you can choose to be daunted by it, or you can choose to see it as an opportunity. And the opportunity was to go, well, what might I do? And everything that I am and everything that I do today comes from that one tool because it changed everything for me. So realize I've rattled on for quite a bit here, but I'm trying to think about where does what I do come from? And I both looked at my family and loved ones when I was growing up, and it broke my heart to look at the lives that they were living. But I myself was also mid-teens, early 20s, living a life that I couldn't live anymore. And now I look around at so many other people and I want better lives for them because it breaks my heart to look at those people surviving rather than thriving. And that doesn't mean, you know, everybody has to go and join the corporate ladder and thrive and, you know, achieve great things in the corporate world. When I say thrive, that should mean I want people to live good lives that they can be happy in.
And what a concept, right? And is it wild that that's not the priority? And I had a response to what you've just said there, and I can't remember what it is.
Happens to me about 15 times every hour. So
I know what it was. It was the reason I left corporate
uh-huh.
is because I knew I would have given not a good version of who I am to a family if we were to have one.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, it's not easy,
Uh-huh.
right? So I'm 2.5 years out of corporate, and I work with a lot of people that are still in corporate, and that's the thing, right? And that's perfect for them. And for me, it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I just see the difference of the time and quality of who I am with Jack because of doing my own thing and having a little bit more freedom with time.
Yeah.
It's profound, the difference.
Yeah.
So I've felt, let's say, the impact of the work that you do.
Yeah.
And if you look at organizations then from the outside, it can be easy to see a very different story.
Yeah.
Oh, we're a great place to work and this kind of thing. You're playing with that a little bit, right? So tell me what that's all about.
I try to be careful. I used to not be as careful when I talked about this, right? Because at the end of the day, there's people working for organizations and they want to celebrate the success of the culture that they've built. And at the end of the day, they're under pressure and they need to attract people to come and work in those companies.
Mm-hmm.
So they build these seemingly amazing employer brands that from the outside, they look so slick. It looks like if you joined those organizations, there would almost be no work to do. It looks so fun from the posts and social media and the graphics and the videos and all the rest of it. But more often than not, when you speak to people who work in those companies, they hate it.
Yeah.
They look incredible from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And then people join those companies because they look incredible from the outside and they get in there and they're terrible places to work. But they've all got these badges and they've all got these awards and all the rest of it. And it upsets me. I had a client who was from South America and he actually took a job in Barcelona based on this company looking incredible, right? It actually lured him to move from South America to Spain to go and work in this company. And it was actually worst case scenario. He got to Spain. He literally sold everything back home, said goodbye to his friends and family, moved to Spain. And again, it was another one of these badge holders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got there, arrived into the reception, was met by a director who said things have changed. They no longer are able to commission the role. The job didn't even exist anymore. He had moved to Spain for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of this guy's grit and determination, such an incredible guy, he literally went building to building in every company, spoke to the reception and said, "Are you hiring?" until he found a job, which I admire so much in him. But it's another example of organizations that organization's got really toxic values to do something like that to somebody. And they're badge holders. And for me, what upsets me is two things. One, from the job seeker's point of view, that's an extreme example, but there's so many job seekers that take jobs in companies that look great from the outside, get in there, and they're not great companies to work in. But also, there are good business owners. I talk a lot about SMEs because most businesses are SMEs. It would be easy to talk about the Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons and all the rest of it, but most businesses aren't of that scale, right? Most businesses are SMEs. And there are, in terms of the percentage of all businesses, it's a small percentage of all businesses, but there are not a lot of, but there are good, salt of the earth business owners who want to build good businesses. And one of the things that holds them back from scaling is every company looks great from the outside. And I don't think that's fair. When these companies go out to recruit, and you've got one company that's run by people who do have good values, who want to do business in the right way, who want to look after their people, and they do look after their people. And in the job market, they're up against companies that don't give a damn about their people. It's a 50-50 chance whether the job seeker is going to take a job in this company or that company, unless they know people who've worked in these businesses, which a lot of the time they don't. I want this company, the one that does care about their people, to get the credit they deserve and actually be able to stand out. So I guess the work that I do, there's two kind of parts to it. One is an organization doesn't have to be in a good place to work with me. And actually, I prefer if they're not. There's an organization I started working with recently, and there was people who actually said to me, would you not be concerned about working with them? And they tried to warn me off, and they said, I would be afraid as to where this is going to go for you, right? They thought it was a lost cause. And my response was, I'm more excited to work with that company than anybody else, because the difference that can be made there is going to be incredible. We're going to help people have better lives because of this. And by doing that, help the business perform better as well. So I work with companies to help them to become a better employer, to optimize their culture. But the companies that are already good, that are still struggling to attract and retain staff, because people leave good companies to go and work for companies that are supposedly great, and then get there and they're not. I help them to get the credit that they deserve. So I have this Vibrant Workplace Accelerator. It's a 12-week program. It's backed up by evidence from my employee experience platform, Mookie, where we use the data either to help those companies to fix their culture or to evidence how good the culture is in the companies where things are really good. And that's what it's all about. It's about helping companies become vibrant workplaces where people have a positive experience working, and the extension of that is they can have better lives. Or they're already good and we help them prove it's good so job seekers know to go and work there.
How do you square off that people don't leave companies, they leave bad managers? Sorry, people don't leave bad companies, they leave bad managers, because that's a massive part of the experience, right?
I struggle with this one because on paper it makes sense, right? Big part of why I take the approach that I do with my work. I used to do leadership development programs. I still do leadership development programs, and I think they're a good thing to do, right? I run this mostly online. I prefer to do it in person, I have to say, but most of the time these days, people ask for it to be online, this Vibrant Leaders program. People come on that program, they get tools, they get techniques, they get little, things that they can use to help themselves in difficult situations with team members, etc. It's a worthwhile thing to do. But what I used to find was that managers would come on that program, they would have a positive experience, they would give good feedback, they would recommend other managers take part in the program, but they would say, this is really good, but I'm just frustrated.
Yeah, this will never work in X.
Because they're going back into a dysfunctional system where they don't have the authority to make the changes that need to be made on their own, and they don't have the influence. So they're maybe one manager out of 100 managers, and they're maybe at a middle management level. And the people who most need to be on those kind of programs either don't go, or go kicking and screaming, or go and spend all the time sat on their laptop replying to emails thinking they're there and that's enough for people. They're not really present. So I got to a point where I thought, these are good things to do. It's important to do leadership development. It's important to develop your managers, but it's an ingredient in the recipe of a vibrant workplace rather than being the whole recipe. What we actually need to do is step back, take stock of what life is actually like in the company, work out where the real problems are. And the real problem might be that the managers need to be developed, but it might also be something that wouldn't change through management development. And most organizations each year, they will have a budget to do something like a management development program or leadership development program. But almost no company will actually look at how the business needs to evolve culturally. So with my program, we build up a picture of what life is really like there through Mookie, through the employee experience platform, and that will tell us, where does the budget need to go? Do we need to do management development, or do we need to do something else? And to give you a very quick example of that, one company that I worked with, the people in the business said, this is a really good company to work in, but in order for us to grow and develop in our careers, we have to leave.
Yeah.
Because they didn't like the structure and the opportunities for advancement in the company. That's not going to change by training managers. So back to your question.
No matter how developed.
Exactly. And do you know what? Look, there was one company contacted me and they said, we want leadership development for our middle managers. And I said, okay, so have they ever been exposed to any formal leadership development in the past? And they said, they're actually finishing up a program at the moment. And I went, but you're asking me to do another one with them? And I said, have they ever been involved in a program in the past? And they said, well, that's actually their third program. So they wanted me to do the fourth program.
Yep.
There comes a point where these people know they have the theory, but they need the opportunity to put it into practice and build great businesses. Do they have the opportunity to do that? And back to your question, therefore, about I guess, do people leave managers or do they leave bad companies? I think managers get bad press because I think there are a lot of bad managers out there, and they do. There does need to be an intervention one way or another with them to do something about that. And unfortunately, we just ignore that problem a lot of the time. But I also think that there's a lot of good managers who are in bad systems. And their job as a manager, of course, if they're leading, it's going to be different. But actually, by the job description, their job is to make things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. They didn't create the policies and the systems and structures and the rules. They just maintain it. And then if someone doesn't like their experience of working in a company, they experience it through their manager. So they go, my manager's an asshole.
Yeah.
Or is it their manager or is their manager actually making things happen that they don't even want to do?
Well, all managers and leaders exist with constraints. So there's constraints in the system.
Yeah. So for me, there are bad managers out there. And I absolutely 100% agree with the research about the impact, positively or negatively, that a good manager or a bad manager will have on their team. 100% agree with that. But I also think that sometimes they're managing I would say in a bad way. They're doing their job, but their job is the problem because they're maintaining something that's broken.
Yeah.
So what I want to come to for you for a minute, because I know I've rambled on for a lot here. I think we approach the same problem, but from two sides. Okay. I think that you help people to find the resources within themselves, not just to cope, but to actually thrive and build lives that they want to live and to be happy. And the extension of that, being able to perform then in whatever area they want to perform. I think I almost come at it from the other side of, I look at the company and I go, well, can people thrive in a broken system? So I try and get the company to evolve. I think we also have a bit of crossover. You also will help the company to evolve. I also will work with people and do some coaching, etc., and help people. So I think there's a lot of crossover between what we do, but I think your predominant focus is coming in from this side and me from this side. So when you work with somebody, and I think this is something that comes up time and time again for me, you work with someone and they've maybe worked in so many businesses where the common experience has been negative, and they come to you and they say, I need help. What do you do to help them when, I guess, the impact of the problems is coming from outside of them rather than inside of them? In terms of, it's because they're in that negative system.
Yeah, and they've internalized that as it could be them.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of what I am becoming better at is accepting that the system is what the system does. I read a quote and I put it up on Instagram yesterday, and it's something like the sea is the sea, no matter the drops philosophy.
Yeah.
As in the drop of water's philosophy.
Yeah.
And I've tried to change the world. And I've tried to want it to be different than it is.
Yep.
And a quote that I was given I did a coach supervision course. So supervision isn't, I'm going to supervise coaches. It's let me develop and support coaches to do even better work in their coaching.
Yeah.
And on the course, Marie Fair, and her name comes from fire and air, F-A-I-R-E.
Okay.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
She said to me, Philip, you can only but change the world because you're in it. So most of the time we look at a system and we go, this all needs to change. And that's really hard. Whereas if we start with self and what's in our capacity and control to change, I mean, there's the butterfly effect, right? So, if you had a weighing scales, if you weight, let's call it big system on the left, individual on the right.
Yeah.
There is a point where the additional weight of a butterfly's wings will tip the scale on that system.
Okay.
So small things, small interventions can impact that scale. So I believe that deeply. Right?
Yeah.
So let me get back to your question, which is, I help them see and separate that it's not them, but that they can do something about it. Because typically I'm working with people in leadership positions, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of leaders are projected onto, you're bad, you're wrong, because you're the system.
Yeah.
And I can tell you where that comes from and stuff like that. But if we internalize that, the shame, the loneliness, the isolation that typically people will feel in those positions as well is profound. I don't want people to experience that when they're deeply human in the roles that they're in. So shame is an emotion to remind you you're not godlike, you're human.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. No, you're human. The system is demanding from you more than one person has capacity for. So I'll typically just reorient people back in an understanding of where they are, what's possible from their perspective, and some small experiments or practices that they can run to help them start with where they are and influence what's ahead of them. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I can see that something is triggered.
Yeah, because I can't reconcile this in my own head. I always have this debate. I almost feel like by me trying to change the world, to use the expression that you used, right? Would it not be more helpful to just help people to learn how to thrive within the reality of how things actually are?
So maybe. Because I've read lots of thoughts on burnout as an example. So burnout, let me tell you a quote that one of my mentors told me. And he said, the antidote to exhaustion isn't always rest. It's wholeheartedness.
Yeah.
And wholeheartedly giving to something that you don't understand.
Yeah.
You haven't been told the purpose. You're not aligned in how your role meets that purpose.
Yeah.
That's not wholehearted. I will burn out against something that I don't believe in or don't even see or recognize where I play a part in that. Mm-hmm. So when you accept that we are in a system, I mean, you and I are already in a system even today and on the way here and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. If I say it should be different than it is, I'll hold the resistance. The system doesn't care, but we're the system.
Yeah.
So if we care enough about what's around us, we can change the world.
Yeah.
But we must start from here, and we have to accept what is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just bring more resistance to something that you just hold that and you burn out from it.
I mean, even when I say that, I don't think it's one or the other. I don't think that you can just focus on the system and forget the part that the individual has to play in building a life that they can thrive in. You know, I think it has to be both. It makes me think of what went viral on social media a couple of months ago. This was a debate on Stephen Bartlett's podcast between Daniel Priestley and Gary Stevenson. You know where I'm going to go with this?
No, not necessarily, but...
You don't? Okay. For those who, you know, maybe don't know what I'm talking about, Daniel Priestley and Gary Stevenson were sort of having this debate about what's possible for young people today because of where we've got to in terms of, you know, I guess the model that we built for working and living, and you know how prices have gone up and house prices have gone up and all the rest of it, and Daniel Priestley's take, which I love, by the way, right, is about a mindset of agency, right? A lot of people won't know what that term agency means, and it's the term he was using. It's basically about, well, what can you do to build the life that you want to live, and empowering yourself to feel like there is something possible here that I can do to build a life that I want to live. Gary Stevenson's take was almost the opposite, was, excuse the language, but we fucked it, right, for kids today.
Yep.
In terms of, you know, the average house price in the 1970s was like 2.5 times the average annual salary. It's, I don't know, something like 10 times now. And where we've got to, I remember coming across this stat recently, and this sort of stuff disgusts me, but there are, I think it's people on Earth who hold the same wealth collectively, right? 8 people as 3.6 billion, right? The world is not short of money. There is so much money out there, so much wealth out there. It's astronomical. There's more wealth than there's ever been. But what we've done is we've concentrated it into so few hands that so many people are struggling. I had this great conversation with ChatGPT when I came across that stat. And I said, if you took 3.6 billion people and you put them in a line at a food bank, how far would the queue stretch? And it said it would wrap the earth 54.8 times. Okay. So 8 people, you could fit 8 people on this platform here, have the same wealth as the number of people that could wrap the earth 54.8 times. I just think we've got to do something about that. So this debate kind of was Gary Stevenson going, we've created a model that no longer has a meaningful return on investment for a lifetime spent at work for young people. Daniel Priestley's viewpoint on that was you're hamstringing young people by making them feel like there's nothing possible for them anymore. I personally think the answer is somewhere in between there. I think that people should make a fist of things, should try and make the life that they want to live, should do everything within their power to empower themselves to build a good life. I also agree with Gary Stevenson. I think that we've exploited the working class. Everybody wants people to come to work and do more and give more and care as much as their owners. But why would they care when they get, for $100,000 spent at life, they struggle in return? So this kind of, it comes back to what we were talking about. It makes me think, what's the role, what's the responsibility for an individual to help themselves versus should we call out the system more for being broken and exploitative? And should we try and fix that? What's your take on that?
I probably don't understand enough. I probably don't understand enough. And we're making a judgment of good and bad rather than, again, it's both.
Yeah.
And you said the word disgust, which is interesting. So the emotion of disgust is when there's something that's rotten or gone off. And it's very, like, we can actually tell the expression on faces of disgust. And it's to deliberately trigger that reaction that we move away from the pathogen.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to use the word, right?
That's how strongly it makes me feel.
Right. So interesting reaction.
Yeah.
You'll hold that reaction. The system won't. And so there's a certain right sizing of responsibility and sharing, or like what's mine to hold. I can't influence that right now. What I can do, though, is support people now and let that be enough.
And that's what I struggle with, because that's where the conflict comes in my mind is, would it be a better use of my time to just help people to find the resources within themselves to build a good life?
No, but that takes away from the both. So I still think you can do both. But so can I overshare?
Please do.
So I previously wanted to change the world.
Right.
All the systems, make everyone nice to each other, no conflict, no wars. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Let's have a happy life.
Be a good human. Yeah.
Took it on my shoulders, lower back gave out.
Okay.
From where I am, if I died with what I've done so far, even up to today, the story of enough changes whether I'm at peace with that or I never get the sensation of enough.
Yeah.
Ever. And I held the resistance of not achieving that. I'd rather start from where I am.
Yeah.
And examine the story. So the story of what success is or whatever is depending on your salary, 100,000 or a million or 10 or a billion.
Yeah.
There's always these comparisons. You'll always compare up to one of those numbers, roughly. Bad example, but when Jack arrived, who's 8 months in a couple of days' time,
very good.
My definition of success was if I can be with him, not have to think, can I house him, clothe him, feed him, all that kind of stuff, that's just a given. What if that was enough?
Yeah.
So, and let me add to it. And if I was to do and have meaningful conversations with people that help them accept reality, help them accept their humanity, and made their lives a little bit better, what if that was enough?
And even the fact that, do we need as much as we have? Because would we be happier if we weren't chasing, money all the time to buy things that we don't actually need? I mean, you think of, games consoles and stuff like that. Every kid obviously wants to have a games console, but is the kid actually happier if they play?
Well, like, it's interesting that there's trees in between us, right? So system, individual, let's play with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, nature is the answer. Nature is, when we are back in nature, away from the systems or the isolation, we're built for interconnectivity.
Yeah.
We're built for less distraction. We're built for boredom. We're built for this kind of stuff. And we've gotten away from that.
Yeah.
It's all simulated reality rather than actually experiencing stuff. I've simulated reality in my mind for too long. I've read about life, never experienced it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we, I think, are called towards now. We've distanced ourselves from living.
Yeah.
We've distanced ourselves from what it means to be human. It needs to get back to that a little bit.
And, I'm only talking from my own personal lived experience. I'm not talking about any expertise on this topic, but I know that when I get back in touch with just a more grounded way of living and get back in touch with nature, that's when I'm happy.
Everything heals.
I'm not happy when I go and buy a new thing.
So can I push on this, right? Tell us about your fast. And the reason I'll link it to that is, what does the body do when it's not overstimulated or having overconsumed?
So for those who are listening or watching, I'm currently 39 hours and 4 minutes into a fast, which is an interesting experience. My reason for doing it was just really, I just had this feeling recently where I needed a reset, and I needed to get in touch with my own sense of discipline again. I felt like I was being greedy, and I felt like I needed a kind of purge. And I'm one of those people that I find it hard to get the balance right if I don't have that break state, right? Where I just stop everything and then come back as a better version of me. Okay. So that was the reason for the fast. 39 hours in. The interesting thing that I've noticed about it is I don't feel as sluggish. I feel like I have more energy. And I'm starting to get to the point where I don't even know how to describe this. I feel better within my body.
So now let's scale fasting to organizations.
Okay.
How do those now more energy, more clarity, more energy? You even did like an embodied thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's like an energy that's been released from less consumption, the system.
Yeah.
What do we need to fast from?
Are we talking about within the workplace, or are we talking about our attachment to and almost addiction to things? Because if we wanted and needed less things, we probably wouldn't need to chase that, next step in the corporate ladder all the time. We wouldn't need so much. We wouldn't need so much money, and actually we could be engaged in healthier things outside of work. So does that answer your question? Is it almost reducing our reliance on things?
Well, I mean, the system doesn't get, so the incentive for working, for consuming, I mean, capitalism wants that. Capitalism isn't bad. It's the best system we have at the moment. We do need to evolve beyond it, but it is what it is, and it does good stuff. The downside is it's just maximum extraction.
Yeah.
But we're extracted from, we're over-consuming, and if we were grateful, the system would shut down. Because there's no desire, there's no move toward, because we have everything we need.
The thing is, I think people, when they hear me talking about this stuff, and this is just my own sort of, self-doubt talking here, or insecurity, I think people probably think that I'm anti-capitalist. I'm not anti-capitalist, right? I just believe in a more balanced version of capitalism. I think, and actually, back to you used the term a few minutes ago about good versus bad, right? I don't look at business owners and think of them as bad. And actually, when I think about this broken system and I get that repulsive response where I'm disgusted, right? Believe it or not, the strange thing is there's never been a point at which I'm thinking about the business owner and being angry at them. I'm angry at the system.
They're working within, like, there's an incentive to grow, and that's perpetual growth.
Do you know what? You and I are both self-employed, okay? We know how difficult it is to build a business, right? And I absolutely understand why, if you have clawed and scratched and scraped your way to build a successful business, why you would be going, I want to have a good life because of this and I want to keep the profits, right? I totally get that. The thing for me is I actually believe that we will make more money by looking after our people.
But again, this is why I say about the fast.
Yeah.
You said, so less sluggish. I'm probably now projecting. It's clearer.
Yeah.
More energy. Vibrant.
Vibrant, yeah.
Right? Imagine if that was directed into a meaningful purpose.
Yeah.
What could be unleashed?
That's exactly it.
And I think it's going to be the biggest impact of AI is so a quote my mom told me when I was a teenager and I told her I wanted a Ferrari. She said, Philip, if who you are is what you have, and what you have is gone, who are you? So you're the person without the Ferrari now. Who are you?
Yeah.
Because the Ferrari's cool, but if it's not there, have you relied on that as your identity? Same with work. If our work is, I'm a doctor, I'm an accountant, I'm just trying to think of some of the things that like AI is going to have a big impact on. Lawyer, coder, like a programmer, like all those things. AI will do and do and do. And if you're losing that identity, who are you?
Yeah, and interestingly, I ran an event a few years ago. It was actually, I think it was the very first, what is now called the Vibrant Workplace Forum, but at the time it was called the Northern Ireland Talent Development and Retention Forum. You can see why I shortened that, right? But the very first one was on the topic of AI, automation, and the future of work. There was a guy, and I think his surname was Wilson, I think it was Pete Wilson, who came and spoke at that. And he talked about how the nature of how we use our time and the jobs that we do is going to have to change. He talked about, you gave the example of the doctor, and he brought up versus the nurse there, right? And he said, which job do you think is going to be more safe? And he said, he got everybody in the room to, vote with their hands. Which one do you think? And everybody was going, well, the doctor.
Yeah, beautiful.
Or complex job, etc. And he was saying, well, actually, anything which is diagnostic based or process based is going to be more at risk because the computer will be able to take over that. Anything that requires the human skills is going to be the one that's safer. And he said, the way he summed it up was, we are going to have to become better people to each other. Yes. Because the jobs that are going to exist are going to be the jobs that require human qualities, which is what the computer can't replicate.
Which is why I didn't talk at the group at your forum for 15 minutes. What did we do? The human stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And then if we link it to the identity of your role or your tasks, the work I think that is going to be what's the most needed is what's the purpose individually? And how can we gather around some form of shared purposes that actually make the planet better?
So on that note of purpose, right, this is making me think about something. Because I said this to somebody recently. We all talk about organizational purpose, right? Talk about how to engage a workforce. And everyone goes, got to have a vision and a meaningful purpose. And, you go into a company and the vision is make shareholders more money, right? That's not going to inspire people, right?
Well, some. But maybe not everyone.
If they're going to in some way benefit from that. You see the protests in Spain. Maybe you haven't seen this. The protests in Spain
watch the news.
And on the Canary. It's a good move. There's all these protests going on about mass tourism, right? And I just happened to see this morning one of the protesters holding up a sign saying, if tourism makes money, why are we not seeing it, right? I would say if they had a connection to the benefits that come from that purpose, they'd be going, yeah, tourism's great. But they're looking at it and they're going, well, it's bringing in loads of money to the country, but are we benefiting from this? Or is the cost of rent now is it excluding locals from being able to afford to rent properties and all the rest of it and have homes and mortgages and stuff? So that's why I say, back to the shared purpose, even if the purpose is money, if they're going to have some sort of benefit from that, great. But this is the thing. Sometimes organizations will, and managers, directors, and companies and employees will go, what a load of waffle when you talk about having a meaningful purpose, right? And they go, the work that we do doesn't have an inspiring purpose. Now, I think that you can, connect the dots. Everything that we do exists for a reason. Otherwise, if you weren't solving a problem somewhere for someone, the job wouldn't exist. Okay. But even if you accepted, right, there is some, work where there is no meaningful purpose. If nothing else, I believe that a business can serve as a vehicle to create better lives for the people who work in it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in order to be able to do that, it needs to be successful. Therefore, the people need to be coming to work. They need to be performing. If it's a commercial organization, the organization needs to be profitable for the company to still be there, creating these jobs for people, etc. But I think if you give people a meaningful return on investment, and that's not just financial, if you give them a meaningful return on investment for the lifetime spent at work, the business will do better anyway.
Mm-hmm. 100%. But we haven't figured out purpose for our individual selves. So then to put it in a business context, how are we meant to do it? When the reality is, so I have a business, you have a business. Purpose is generate money, but also create lifestyle and give back to ourselves. What if both of those were maybe a way that companies could do that? Do both? Because it's an and. It's always and.
Yeah. Personally, for me as an individual, and I haven't thought about this from the corporate point of view yet, I've almost felt a little bit guilty about this. I have my career purpose, which absolutely intrinsically connects to me. It drives everything that I do, and I would not have been in the trenches.
Can you share it?
I will do it in a second, but I wouldn't have gone through what I've gone through and been in the trenches for so long to get to where I'm trying to get to if that didn't intrinsically speak to me. Okay. But actually, I have an even more powerful personal purpose. The career purpose is and this is actually what we talked about, and whether this is naive, but I want to change the way the world works. I want to create a better working world. And I've always said from day one, that's both for employers and for employees.
Yeah.
So I think it's got to work for both. Why would you as a business owner care about creating a better experience of work for the workforce if it was at your expense, right? So it's got to be good for the employer as well as the employee. But I believe that people spend more of their lives working during the best years of their lives and their conscious waking hours than they will do anything else. And they deserve to be looked after in return. So I want to see a better working world, and I'm trying to make that happen. The personal purpose is that the extension of that is, and it's been a struggle for me, it affects me sometimes, but I want the result of that for my family to be that I help them live a better life too. And because I've been in the trenches in the early years of being, building a business, you don't immediately just have, loads of money and loads of time and all the rest of it, is that it's not just me who's had to sacrifice, they've had to sacrifice too. And that's a conflict for me internally, because I know if I just went and took a job again, I would have more money, more stability, and that would be better in the short term for them. But I have wanted to get to a different level to help all of them live an easier life where they can do the things that make them happy.
Yeah, there's no such thing as solutions, just trade-offs. So there's a trade-off for your position now, a trade-off if you're in an organization.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as solutions, just trade-offs.
Yeah.
And I think if we got really clear on what the shared trade-offs were for employers and employees, and could think about what a solution might look like, where we can accept what that might look like, and both give a little bit, I wonder what might become possible.
It's about, shared success and shared, getting the right people coming together. And when I say the right people who are inspired to work towards the same thing. So they're all on the same page, they're all facing the same direction, and they all want the outcome that they're collectively trying to achieve. Interestingly, I spoke with a lady called Karen McGuire, and she's now part of Employee Ownership Ireland. Okay. Is she the chair? I think she's the chair. The exact role that she has had has gone on in my head in this moment, but she sold her business because she was at a point where she was ready to sell her business. And she could have gone the private equity route, just sold it, shareholders and all that. And she felt like the heart and soul of her business would probably go. And I've seen that 100 times, a business that's been built by a passionate founder gets to the point where, and I don't look negatively on the person who then sells their business to private equity, it's ran its course for them. They're ready to step out and, follow a different path, right? But they sell it to private equity and the heart and soul often gets ripped out. We'll make redundancies. How do we make this business, fit in line with our other businesses that we already run, blah, blah, blah. And it becomes a monster. It becomes something different. She got to the point where she went, I'm ready now to exit this business. And she came across the option of employee ownership trusts, which I knew nothing about, didn't know how they work or anything. So she still sold the business, but she sells it into the employee ownership trust. So she is still getting her sale fee out of it. But there's an agreed time frame within which this happens. Over the next, I don't know if it's 3 years, 5 years, whatever. She then, through the profits of the business, gets her fee out of it over time. But what that means is then the business and the profits of the business are being invested back into the business and what it's trying to achieve. And some of it's being shared with the workforce then. And when I looked at this, I thought, why should every business not have a meaningful profit share with the workforce? They're the people who generate the profits. And yes, even if you don't go the employee ownership trust route, even before she sold her business and you've got the owner running the business, why could the owner not get the majority of the profits? Because look, let's be honest, it is really difficult. You make a lot of sacrifices to build a successful business. You deserve to do well from it once it does do well. So yes, they keep the majority of the profits, but could there not be a percentage of the profits where we go, we're going to share that with the workforce? And it gives them a real reason to be invested in wanting to come to work and give their all because they know it's going to be good for the business, but it's also going to be good for them and their families.
And I think that happens already. It's just not called profit share.
Okay.
Pay rise, bonus, massage chairs, table tennis, right? So some of that is happening, but
if it's at a level,
there will always be a desire for more. That's what we're built for.
But if it's at a level where people are struggling still.
So that's different.
Yeah.
That's different. That's like minimum wage, all this kind of stuff. That's a thing. I don't really know about that because table tennis tables, in contrast to, no, let me pay enough for my rent and my mortgage and my family and that kind of stuff. That's a very different.
Let me tell you an interesting poll. I put a poll up on LinkedIn. This was a few years ago now. And I was just really curious to know where people are in their minds. And I said, if you could have any amount of money in the world, you could have just enough to live a comfortable life. You could be really well off, so you never needed to or had to need for anything. You could be a millionaire or you could be a billionaire. How much money would you want to have? How much would you want to have? Unless that's too personal to ask on a podcast.
I've said before, if I won the lotto, I just want about 100 grand. And that was when I was working full time, that I could probably have something set up that I could step into. I lost my pension when I left to some extent, right? I don't plan on never not working. This is forever.
I think work can be great for people in terms of direction and focus and purpose and camaraderie and being part of a tribe and all these good things. Work can be great. It's just that it's often not. It could be.
Can I push against this as well? Because it's interesting. So one of my mentors said to me that I was expecting more from work than it ever could give me.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was expecting all fulfillment, all money, all security, all connection, all da 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 da. And he said, what if it can't give you that? You're making a contract that there's going to have to be some trade-offs.
Yeah.
Do you see what the trade-offs could be? And I'm like, I hadn't thought about that. So for example, for me to get a sense of purpose and fulfillment, that's where my coaching work, my speaking, conversations like this, right? If I had a job and I was expecting that same sense from it, other than sometimes just a paycheck, I will suffer more than is ever possible.
See, this is back to where my conflict is, though, because
I love that we're talking.
I know this is
Right?
great.
Because like that's the point of conversation.
Yeah.
Like I see, you see, like what does it mean? Help me learn, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what it's about. But what we'll often do is, no, but I'm right. It's like, no, your perspective is yours. It's different. Can we play with it? Like
Yeah.
let's see it
Yeah.
as an
Yeah.
objective thing in front of us, and let's learn about what it is.
You see, you used that expression there. What if work can't give you that, right? Where I have the conflict is, I think it's won't, right? Because I think that work can. You take businesses that, look, the company that I left when I quit my job in 2014 to do what I do now, they had staff attrition levels between 40 and 50%. It is so much more profitable to just create an environment where people will stay, right? So I think work could be so much better in that company, and because it's better, the business would be a lot more profitable.
So can I push this now? So what we're doing here now is all or nothing, not the in between.
Yeah.
So work could make it better, but it still might not meet all the needs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So we have to find the balance point,
Yeah.
and that's in the power of conversations.
Yeah.
What's the conversation that we're having? And are we willing to have trade-offs equally, or both of us?
And that, it does tie in with the Gary Stevenson, Daniel Priestley debate. Is it this or is it this? It's both. And I look at these businesses where they say, for example, we can't afford to pay our staff, or we can't afford to adequately resource the team, can't, have more bodies in the team, okay? And I go, but because you don't put enough people in that team and they're all burning out and they're going off on long-term sick, it's costing you more money because you're paying salaries for people who are not in there contributing, right? Because you don't pay at the right level. People might take jobs with you, but they're already thinking, stay on the job market, keep looking for a job. And as soon as you get an opportunity to go and work somewhere that will pay more, off I go. That company that I worked in, I always remember they would send out emails quarterly about record-breaking profits. This was one of the most lucrative businesses in the world, right? And they would send emails about record-breaking profits to people who were taking home £850 a month after tax and national insurance. And I would think, read the room. Why would you be celebrating this? Why would you be shoving this in people's face? These people are struggling to feed their kids and keep a roof over their head. And you're expecting them to be proud of the fact that your shareholders are rich.
And how did that, well, again, that's fueled your fire, right?
That's when I left. It literally was one evening. I finished an assessment center, and I believe there's a point at which you can be too engaged, right? In terms of engagement, not just being about happiness in the workplace, it being about participation and contribution. For me, I had sole responsibility for all the recruitment, all the talent development. I was basically a one-person department. And I always wanted to do my best, and I never wanted to let other people down. I knew that if I didn't bring people in and I didn't have them trained and ready to go, then other departments were going to suffer because of that. So it was a 24/7, 365 operation. And a lot of the time I wouldn't leave there until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't get paid overtime. So I wouldn't be leaving until 3 or 4 a.m., coming back in again first thing. And if I walked in at 9:15 as opposed to 9, somebody would go to me, Craig, it's 1:15. And I would be like, are you serious? Are you being serious, challenging me on that? But
and you hear there, so again, it's a recontracting of expectations on both sides. Because you were expecting, but so was the organization. And there probably wasn't an alignment between them.
But that particular night, I'd finished an assessment center. We desperately needed new staff in because, as usual, we couldn't keep staff. We were a conveyor belt. I was constantly going assessment center to assessment center to assessment center. And I need a bit of wind down time when I finish work to decompress. So I finished assessing all the candidate packs, decided who I was going to make job offers to, sent all the emails and everything that I needed to send. And I happened to go onto the BBC News website. And I saw an article about the poverty line in the UK. And I was reading this article and I took my calculator out and I worked out that most of the people in this department were below the poverty line and they work full time. And I thought, this is wrong. And that was the point where I actually sent an email that night. I've always been very forthright, okay? And you probably can judge that from some of the things that I've said, but I'll be professional about it in that I won't be abusive in the things that I say, right? But I'll be direct. I'll say the things that need to be said. And I sent an email to the full senior management team. It was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said, here's a link to an article on the BBC News website about the poverty line in the UK. I've done my sums, and most of the people we're working with here are below the poverty line. And I said, I don't know how any of us can sleep at night turning over the profits that we do and allowing that to happen. That was the point when I checked out. That was the point when I went, I'm not doing this anymore. I felt like a sellout on my own values to keep doing that. And the balance for me is I do work with individuals. I'm quite firm with individuals as well. What is the rule for them? What is the expectation on them to come to work and do in a sustainable way to do a good job? But at the same time, I'm firm with the company. What's your role in this? I walked into one business a few years ago, and the business was speaking to me about cultural evaluation, cultural transformation work. And the managing director said to me, I will bring you in here on one condition. And I said, what's the condition? And he said, you do not talk about salary. And I said, no. You don't get me then. I'm not coming in here. I'm not working with you under conditions like that. You need to know if salary is the problem here, because if it is, it's costing you money not to pay a fair wage. You're not getting the best job seekers. People aren't coming to work as often as they would be. They're not staying in the company for as long as they would. And they are not doing the job that they could do to the level that they could do it, therefore creating the best experience for your customers, who will then keep coming back and using your services and recommend you to other people. That is all costing you money if you're not paying a fair salary. So I'm not coming in here if salary's off the table. And what has been really interesting with me for me over the years is a lot of the time people have this sort of strong front, so nobody challenges them. But most of the time when you push back, they go, okay. And that was literally the response from him was he sat back in his chair and he went, right, fair enough. You know what was interesting? Back to the poll that I put on LinkedIn, and this came up in this company again. So in the poll on LinkedIn, how much money do you want? Overwhelmingly, I think it was like 83% of people that replied, and it was hundreds of people who replied, said, just want to have enough money to be comfortable. They didn't want to be millionaires. They didn't want to be billionaires, right? And when we did the cultural evaluation in that company, and the managing director had been afraid for salary to be a topic of conversation, almost everybody in the business said, I'm paid fairly. They weren't asking for more money. We have this, you go on social media and young people that today get talked about as if they're greedy and disloyal and they won't, come to work and do a good job unless we pay them a fortune and all this stuff. I don't find that to be true. I don't think people are asking for that much. I just think they don't want to be in survival mode. They want to have enough money to have a comfortable life. And then that topic, goes off the table. And in some companies, what I will find is sometimes it's actually the managers who are resistant to me in the work that I do, because I'll say, got to work on communication and trust and respect and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes I'll get a bit of pushback where they'll say, just give them more money. And I'll go, but we did the evaluation and they weren't asking for more money.
Yep. But the money is an easy thing to plus or minus.
Yeah.
The harder work is, are we going to be changed by this work?
Yeah.
And change is not what we want. We want homeostasis.
Yeah. So with my employee experience platform, Mookie, we're asking employees each day during the evaluation period, how's your work going? And they get to say if it's great, good, okay, bad, or terrible. Then they can choose from a selection of mood influencers to talk about what made it a positive or negative day. The least selected mood factor in every business, the least selected mood factor, whether because people are happy or unhappy, is pay and perks. So we talk about people as if all they're interested in is what they can get, pay and perks. But actually what I find is they almost are never focused on that.
Yeah. Daniel Pink, I think it is, has a book called Drive, and he talks about three things: purpose, autonomy, and mastery.
Yeah.
Like beyond money,
Yeah.
these things are important.
Yeah.
And back to purpose, so something in the future that we're all collectively working towards. That's the value of organizations versus solo businesses.
Yeah.
We can organize and achieve more together.
Mm.
Autonomy is that you're trusted to do what you do.
Yeah.
Given the space to be able to be creative and act on it.
Yeah.
And then just the mastery. Are you growing and developing?
Yeah.
Too simple, but really powerful, right?
And it's what Mookie, it's the story that Mookie is telling as well, because what's coming up most often in most businesses is two things as the key driver of a positive or of a negative day.
Mm.
One is a sense of achievement.
Mm-hmm.
People come to work and they want to feel like for the time that they've put in, it's made a difference somewhere, somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I think most companies are very bad at is closing the feedback loop and saying, you did this and here's why it mattered.
Yeah.
Look at the impact.
Yes. Here's how it connects to purpose.
Yeah.
And if I was to close a loop, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And that MD that was afraid of talking about salary.
Yeah.
That's a fear.
Uh-huh.
The reality when that person did it anyway was,
yeah,
it's not a thing.
Yeah.
So fears are always greater from a distance. The closer we move towards it, that's why you don't need to read the book, just the title.
Yeah. Yeah.
The closer we get to the thing, it's like like a dog wearing an electric tag around its thing that gets close to the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a sensation, but because it's a shock initially, we retreat quicker.
Yeah.
If we just get closer to the thing and always move towards it, we'll notice it's not even a thing. Salary wasn't even a thing. There were other things that were more helpful to pay attention to.
And it almost always is, in my experience. The other one then that is the big influencer that comes up a lot is relationships. And it's not even specifically because there is a mood factor from management. And I think that's the other one that companies have a fear of. They think everyone's just going to go, my manager's an asshole, right? It's not what happens. It's usually the mood factor that comes up is colleagues. And it's the way that they interact with their teammates. So they come together, they're around these people. If they have a positive influence on each other, they go home going, yeah, I love my teammates. Or if they're maybe working in a team whereby, let's say we're working on a project together and you need me to do my bit on time because it will have a knock-on effect on you being able to do your bit. And if I don't do it, then you're frustrated with me. You have a bad day.
Lose trust.
Yeah.
Distance increases.
Yeah.
Not helpful.
Yeah. So those are a couple of the things. And it's interesting because when people hear of someone like me, organizational culture consultant, they think that I'm going to come in and go, arcade machines and beer taps and office yoga and bring your pet to work. It's not what I say I do until I get in there. And then that's what they think. That's what they think, And I walked into a company a couple of months ago. Managing director asked me to come in. And first meeting with him, 2 steps into his office, and his first words out of his mouth to me were, I am about to start a culture war in here. Right? And I said, what's going on? And he said, I've just walked past that office at the sort of meeting room, and they're all in there making pottery under the guise of employee well-being. And it's not that he's against employee well-being, but that's a sticking plaster. That's not solving root cause problems.
Yeah. And so anytime we talk about this stuff, this is why I'm always about the and.
Yeah.
Employee well-being has its positives and it'll have negatives. And if we're not clear on both of those things, it can skew to, now we've gone too far.
Yeah.
The course correction is always too strong.
Yeah.
And then we go there, just get your work done. Pottery is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
So that's a sympathetic or stressed response.
Yeah.
That I'll use language that I don't actually mean, but that the leader is in a position of, look, what else am I meant to do? I feel under threat by this thing because I'm being held to results.
Yeah.
And this is happening. It's easier to put that from 1 to 0.
Yeah.
Never to explore the difference. So there's a positive to the pottery. There's a downside.
Yeah.
It skews too far.
Yeah.
Reactions are too extreme. Bad for engagement. Bad for trust. Bad for connection. Bad for all that kind of stuff.
And you made me think, as you said that, what is my fast at the minute? It's the extreme course correction.
But that's a
come back
sit-from-in
and
stress to say
Yeah.
it's easier to make a decision of 1 or 0
yeah,
because I'm under time pressure or constrained.
mhm,
So the body doesn't want gray.
yeah,
It wants that black or white 1 or 0 thing.
yeah,
My work is to slow people down enough, get them grounded enough or safe enough in their nervous system
yeah,
so that more choice becomes possible.
mhm,
And I can include your perspective,
mhm.
pottery on one Thursday a year,
yeah.
and include results and not have to make it one or the other.
The way I put it to my clients is, I'm not saying don't do those things, right? Do nice things because they're nice things to do, but don't assume that that is going to fix all the well-being problems that your workforce has, and don't do that as your employee engagement strategy. Do them because they're nice things to do. It's nice to be nice. That's not your strategy for a healthy, happy, engaged workforce. For me, when I come in, and I'm going to ask you then in a second to talk about, I'll give a few tips here about what I consider to be what I refer to as the taboo factors of employee engagement. They're the things that people often don't talk about because they require real commitment in order to solve these problems. But I also want you to kind of maybe close out for this, talking about what can we do to help the individual, or what can they do to help themselves to thrive, okay? But for me, I talk about these taboo factors, and I don't go into a company and say, schedule some yoga classes, right? And throw money at people and stuff like that. It's more, money is one part of it. We can't get away from the fact that people come to work to get paid. It's transactional, and they need to get paid, and they deserve to get paid, and they should be paid well. They're giving us a third of their life, okay? And so the first thing for me is pay fairly. And you can't go, well, let's benchmark against other organizations where they have the same role, because it's a completely different context. They're doing the same job title, but they may be doing very different jobs in very different circumstances, under different levels of pressure, etc. You've got to engage with your workforce and work out what is fair pay in context of your environment, okay? And it is more expensive not to pay at a level where people feel like they're being fairly compensated. Secondly,
can I touch on that one just for a second?
Yeah.
And that definition will evolve of what fair is.
Yeah.
So that's not a one and done.
No.
That's a forever conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And if you're, it comes up every year in a company when they do their surveys, and they get frustrated that people are still complaining about pay, but they've never met the needs of their people. So
well, the needs of people, that's the point. So it expands all the time.
Yeah.
When I increase my salary, I'll increase my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it'll bump up against it. And now I'm like, where's my more money? So enough.
Yeah.
Fair. Evolves.
Yeah. But also, we need to understand that I find that people will be reasonable. They're not going to ask for ridiculous money.
Yeah, let's meet each other halfway.
Yeah, and have an honest conversation with people about what's possible. So pay fairly. Secondly, and this touches a lot on what you talk about when you talk about burnout, but if you operate on a skeleton workforce, what are you going to get? You're going to get skeletons.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I find it mad that we think, what is the fewest number of people that we can get away with providing this service on? Because all we end up with is a burnt out workforce who don't perform when they are there, and then go off on long-term sick or quit and go to a company where they feel like there's going to be a better balance. So, second thing for me, resource the team adequately. Thirdly, I think that we can do better, and we're getting better in some industries more than others, in terms of flexibility and work-life balance. The very mention of a 4-day week will send shivers down the spine of a lot of senior teams, and they'll go, don't ever even mention that in here, right? But if people are healthier, happier, revitalized, re-energized, they come to work recharged, of course they're going to deliver more in less time. And I think as a minimum, and I'm not saying 4-day week is the only solution here, by the way, but I just think as a minimum, we should be prepared to trial things, pilot things, and be upfront with the workforce and say, if we try this and it doesn't work, we have to go back to what we were doing. And that's reasonable, okay? But if we try it and it does work, well, of course, then we can continue with it. But it has to be good for the business as well as being good for the employees. I think that's an adult conversation that people would respect. They would say, even if you couldn't continue with it, they would say, we appreciate the fact that you tried this,
Mm-hmm.
right? But to just go, no, we're not going to have a conversation about this. Why? If the research says that people who are healthier and happier come to work more often and do a better job when they're there, why would you not at least trial a bit of flexibility? Doesn't have to be a 4-day week, but a bit of flexibility. Allow human beings to be human.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got, a young child now. There are going to be times when you need to work from home. If you worked in a company, and you were still in employment and stuff, there would be times when you need to stay at home. What's the problem?
Well, look at yesterday when I was doing that talk, Katie works for an organization, had Jack while on a training course, but could do it from the place that I was speaking at.
Yeah.
And for that hour that I was talking, she covered.
Brilliant.
Because we only have each other, we don't have family.
Yeah.
So that flexibility, and she gives so much because of it.
Yeah.
So much.
Exactly. You will do more for a company that you believe is making the effort to do
that
things.
It's fair.
Yeah, it's fair. Fair is a key word there. Yeah. So, I would sum that up as allowing humans to be human. Okay. And making space and time for humans to be human. Craft meaningful, stretching objectives with people that are going to get what you need for them, that are going to allow them to grow and develop, but also allow them to approach their work in a way that works for them as well as the business and the customers of the business. And the last one, and I'm going to put a caveat around this, but get rid of the asshole in the team. Okay? Now, the caveat that I put around that is sometimes the asshole behaves that way for a reason. I'm a big believer in the expression, there is a positive intent behind all human behavior.
Yep.
They behave the way that they do, either to try and avoid something that would be painful for them or to achieve something that would be pleasurable for them. And they think, it's not that you have to agree with what they're doing, but they think they're doing what they're doing as the best way to achieve the outcome that they're looking for. And the outcome might be as simple as an easy life. And they think...
Well, the easier no to salary, benefits, whatever, that's an easier thing that just happens.
Yeah.
Because then I can get on with the 40 things that are on my plate today, right?
So the caveat is you've got to engage with the person who's not behaving in line with your organizational kind of cultural climate that you want to have, okay? You've got to engage with those people to work out, well, what's going on for them? Because if you hired them and you believed they were the right person for the job and then something changed and they've started to behave in a way that's not working for you or for the team, well, what changed? I always remember coaching this guy, and he was a sales team leader, and he had a member of his team who had gone from being the best performer in the team to the worst performer in the team in 6 months. And I said, what do you think's behind that? And he said, he's just lazy. And I went, that doesn't make sense. How did he go from being the best performer in the team to now the worst performer in the team in 6 months? Just suddenly developed laziness, right? We did this exercise called perceptual positions, which is really just about, putting yourself into the shoes of people, trying to understand what's going on for them. And he had this light bulb moment where he went, the guy's dad died 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And that coincided with the point at which his performance had fallen off a cliff. Okay, so people are behaving the way that they're behaving for a reason, whatever that is. Can we engage with those people to try and understand what's going on for them and find solutions that works for them, works for the team, the business, and our customers? I don't think you should jump straight to sack the asshole in the team. But I think that you have to have an honest conversation about what we need from them, what we expect from them. There's got to be boundaries in terms of behavior. If they're prepared to come back on side, well, great, then we can fix things. But if they're not prepared to work well with their coworkers, be professional, then get rid of them. Because too often we tolerate people like that, and that has such a detriment to everyone else.
Yeah. It's seek first to understand, then be understood.
That's it, yeah.
Right? And again, it's with difficult conversations, it's because we're going to go in telling, not understanding or asking. So it's easy to tell you're lazy, go, versus help me understand. And so one of the things you were going to ask me about, like, what can individuals do?
On the other side,
I mean, typically I'm only working with the leaders of the organization. So like that, the MDs, the senior leaders, the people that are managing and running the organization, including the teams. If we tell them to be empathetic, they're like, no.
Yeah.
Then have everybody's problems.
Yeah.
The move from empathy to compassion involves a kind of what I actually think I need to teach people coaching skills. how can you facilitate the other person holding what's theirs to hold, but you can be with them with what they're experiencing. So for example, let me link it to the example you just shared. If I go into that conversation and I'm empathetic, I'll have to talk about this person's grief. And I might experience all of that, and then I carry that afterwards. If instead I can just be human in that conversation and be empathetic, but also say, so how might we support you? And what are you doing to support yourself?
Yeah.
Now we share what's ours to hold.
Yeah.
We've done the human connection. We've reinforced that there's a togetherness, that we're moving forward together, but I'm not holding all of your stuff. You're holding what's yours, and I'm holding what I can do as well within my capacity. Super powerful. Yeah. But instead, what I think we either go empathetic and burn out from empathy, which is a thing, or we turn it off and we say, no, I'm not even having the conversation, just get them gone.
Yeah.
1 or 0. It's always in between somewhere.
Yeah.
I think the in between is compassion.
Yeah.
Compassion, my understanding of it comes from a book called The Compassionate Leader.
Okay.
Compassionate Leadership,
right.
By 2 authors from the Potential Project. And they talk about doing hard things in a human way.
Yeah.
So doing hard things is, here's the objective stuff that we're doing as an organization and as a company, as a team, all that kind of stuff. But we can do it in a human way. Compassion and wisdom. Wisdom is seeing reality clearly.
Yeah.
Is that combination of both. So that's like a intro into some of the other things individuals can do. So typically, if you're a leader, you are projected onto all the resistance of the organization to change. Because change is happening anyway, even right now. I'm digesting the coffee, you're digesting the coffee. So like change is happening even if we're not conscious of it.
Yeah.
Did you know you were breathing? Oh, just check,
Don't
right?
consciously,
right? So it's happening all the time. And we forget that.
Yeah.
And I think leaders unconsciously are projected onto as the parent.
Yeah.
All our unconscious childhood stuff of authority is projected onto them. And we hold, again, more than is ours. Oh, this change is difficult. Why are we doing this? Let me just resist and go back to who I was, what I do, because it's the same as the stuff that I always did. Why would I want to do something different?
Yeah.
I knew who I was. I knew I got paid, all that kind of stuff. A leader's job is not to solve the resistance. It's sometimes just to accept it.
Yeah.
If I push against you, you will resist at a certain point. Resistance is in us.
Yeah.
We typically will just judge it on other people as bad. But you've already gone through that. You're just ahead of it because you're in the future as a leader. So just accepting resistance makes a massive difference to the level of suffering you hold as a leader. Sorry, do you want to respond?
No, I was taking that on board. I was breathing that in and absorbing it.
What's come up for you?
About accepting the resistance part.
Because typically we don't.
Yeah.
We go, employees are bad. We need to go. Therefore, get rid of employees. I mean, that's the AI move is happening at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Duolingo, all employees are bad, teachers are bad, get rid of them. Use AI.
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
No.
We need both.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wisdom, see reality clearly, something needs to change. Compassion, can I do it with the people?
Yeah.
The join of the two is the powerful move together forward.
Exactly.
So accepting resistance is part of change. It's a natural part of change. I think it's step 3 on one of the models. Insecurity, doubt, all that kind of stuff. And courage is the response.
Yeah.
But courage to be with people as they're experiencing all this stuff. The other thing is get really good at endings. So most of the time with new or change, it's take on all this new stuff. That's overwhelming. It's overwhelming for you as an individual, but also the system.
Yeah.
We haven't said what you can stop doing.
Yeah.
If we said to employees, no, you can stop doing those 40,000 things you do a week. Would you rather not do those 10 reports that you just do every week? Yeah, I would actually. Okay, what might become possible if we do that? Oh, well, I could. What would you improve if you had the autonomy? Well, I noticed this makes it difficult, da-da-da-da-da. Oh, that's interesting. Now we're mobilizing energy because we're creating space.
Yeah.
So creating space in the system is also helpful for the individual. Creating space could be, don't try and do strategic work at the end of your day. Do it at the start of your day before you react to today. Because if you take on, again, today's issues,
Yeah.
how can you think about growing into the future
Yeah.
when you're overwhelmed and weighed down with
Yeah.
everything that's bad and stressful and resisting about today?
Yeah.
Really difficult.
Mhm.
Because you'll project into the future, oh, it's more of this shit.
And that's hard because you wake up, you probably already, as soon as you check your inbox, you've already got umpteen issues to deal with. And
Right.
now your ability to focus strategically and do that stuff has been sidetracked by all these distractions.
So creating space in the system, but also for yourself. Space before you open up that inbox, as an example. Space when you shut down in the evening to have some wind down, even if it's 15 minutes. Pick a time. Test it. Stick with it as a bookend. Space is also not going to just be in your office. I walk most of the people that I coach in nature.
Love that. Yeah.
We go cycling together. I did that recently. We walk in forests. We just get out of the office.
Yeah.
I sat at what's the place between Carrickfergus, like Jordanstown?
Yeah.
The pier there. We walked out onto the beach there and saw a sea lion.
No way, really?
Right? Profound conversation.
Yeah.
Now we get the difference or the contrasting unhurriedness that is very different from the person's reality.
Yeah.
So now they experience it, they get an embodied sense of it. How are you creating a little bit more of that intentionally? Because when you operate in that stressed version, BAU, you're not who you want to be.
Yeah.
So giving them that sensation, that space. And the other is your body. So some form of exercise. It doesn't have to be weights. It doesn't have to be running. It doesn't have to be whatever.
Yeah.
Some movement practice is very helpful. If you're making decisions, make sure you're not hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Right?
Yeah.
Fasting is good, but it will affect your decision making. You will go to 1 or 0 more easily.
Yeah.
If you're not aware and monitoring that kind of stuff. So we talked about body, mind. Sometimes it's noticing when you're moving into a stressed version of yourself.
Yeah.
And having the tools to kind of reset that are yours. Not just, I do an ice bath or I tick all the boxes. I spoke to somebody recently and they ticked all the boxes for recovery and then they're wondering why they're still suffering. It's like, let's talk about it. You don't have to tick the boxes. You can recover in a moment.
Yeah.
Emotions are probably another thing that I would invite people to think about. So when you're experiencing emotions like anger, frustration, anxiety, you're in a stressed nervous system. When you're experiencing depression, sadness, or despair, you're also in a stressed nervous system. Learning and recognizing those things and having a toolbox or set of resources or ways of making sense of those emotions that move you back to a more wholehearted version of who you are. Profound. Simplest thing, long, slow exhales.
Yeah.
Out of the inbox.
And I saw you demonstrate this at the forum.
So what did you see?
So you hooked, it was Simon Ward, wasn't it? You hooked Simon up. Was it to his earlobe?
Yeah.
And what was it you were
connecting? So it measures heart rate variability.
Heart rate variability. And you sort of, I guess, took him out of what NLP would be called a resourceful place. Took him into an unresourceful place, whereas, I guess his emotional state wasn't serving him and you could see how he was up and down. Got him to do some breath work and you could actually demonstrate.
And let's not call it breath work.
Okay.
Because now it's more work. I have to do more work.
Right.
Let's call it breathing.
Breathing.
Right? What a concept.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And just by the breathing, you were actually able to demonstrate through tracking that on the screen so everybody could see it, how instantly he was able to regulate things. And that's within his control or any of our control in any moment. If we're feeling a way that we don't want to feel, we can do something to hack that state, move ourselves into more of a resourceful place.
Be more human.
Yeah.
Not less human, which is our instinctual version of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I want to try and make people have at least a choice of, there's a time and a space for the stressed version of us to do that. I don't want to eliminate stress. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
But there's intention that's lost if we're only there.
Yeah.
Some fluidity and movement between. So sympathetic nervous system isn't bad, but we live there.
Yeah.
And we visit the good every now and again on holidays on a Thursday when we're away for a week. More of that state is very helpful.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would invite, so I don't know how to do this, but I'm trying to create communities of leaders.
Yeah.
Because if you're an MD, if you're a CEO, if you're just more senior, even if you're middle management in an organization,
Yeah.
who can you talk to?
Doesn't happen.
So you retreat, you judge yourself as bad for not having the answers.
Yeah.
And then you just feel shame. I'm not good enough. How come everybody else has this stuff figured out? I don't want people to experience that. The most healing words I say are, that's so normal. Those 3 words. And you can visibly see the people go, I thought it was just me.
Exactly. I literally this week, I was facilitating a leadership program, and there was about 40 leaders in a room, a couple of facilitators, and we were asking everybody to go around and talk about their experiences and their leadership journey and how they've evolved, etc. And almost everybody said the same thing. When they first started out as a leader, they thought they had to know everything.
Yep.
And they felt like they had to solve every problem themselves. And what they realized through that day that they were in the room and the overall journey on the course that they're on is they realized that they almost all experience the same challenges, but they thought it was just them.
Yep.
And it's so useful for them to be able to come together, engage with each other, talk about things, share experiences, learn from each other, problem solve together.
And if we go back to, again, you asked me about why I did what I did in the forum as an example, right? My identity, so again, let me go back a step again, which is my mom saying to me, if who you are is what you, I'm going to change the word, know, and what you know is gone, then who are you?
Yeah.
I relied, since that 12-year-old conversation, on gathering information so that I can be, like, underlying it, so that I can be loved.
Yeah.
Because I know stuff.
Yeah.
Leaders know stuff so that they can perform, meet objectives, gain status, achieve stuff, all that kind of stuff. Enter ChatGPT that knows everything, right?
I get a lot of incorrect answers from ChatGPT, but
for now. So it hallucinates.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can prompt against hallucination as well, right? But just I don't now read books at the moment.
Okay.
Unless I'm very intentional. I'm reading one about shadow work at the moment. So it's an intentional, slowing down ritual.
Yeah.
My knowing isn't information in my mind anymore.
Yeah.
And if you rely on that as a leader, the complexity of and scale of problems are greater than one set of eyes, ears, senses can ever make sense of.
Yeah.
The superpower is, how can we all have the experience, again, back to the forum, so that it's not what I know, it's what we facilitate happening together, so that we move forward to an interesting place together.
Yeah.
Let AI do the stuff of the knowing of some of that. And if we partner really usefully with it, we get to do the human stuff, the human experience stuff together.
Yeah.
That's...
So community and collaboration, is that?
Community, capacity, so capacity in your system, but also, again, just an acceptance of what is.
Yeah. I think we need to do a part 2 to this, because you've already talked about shadow work. I mentioned at the very start, you brought up a similar term, but it wasn't shadow work. I think it was the dark side. Did you mention the dark side? The same thing? Do we have time, do you think, to explore this for a moment?
Okay, 2 p.m.
It's 2 p.m.? Okay. This is probably the longest episode I've done, but I think we could have continued this conversation all day. Let's plan to do a part 2, but just very quickly, what is that sort of dark side, shadow work? What is that?
So it's all the parts of us that we've rejected.
Okay.
It's all the worst fears, doubts, insecurities in us that we're aware of or not aware of.
Yeah.
So, for example, one thing in me is I want to impress people with what I know.
Okay.
That might become... it's helpful until it's not. It might become unhelpful if I'm not aware that that's a thing, and I then try to over-impress and show off what I know, which removes connection. Because now I'm elevating myself above you, so we're not really equal or together.
Okay.
So if I wasn't aware of that unconscious pattern that's unhelpful in me, it changes connection and what's possible between us. The opposite invitation with shadow work, though, is we also have a golden shadow. And what that means is there's a part of us that we typically recognize in people that we admire, that we contain, but we haven't honored with action.
Okay.
So, for example, there's a part of you that's wonderful and is brilliant and beautiful at lots of things. But how often does that get awareness or like embodied action?
Yeah.
Probably not that often.
Yeah.
And typically what would hold it back is shadow.
Yeah.
So if we get really clear that we contain both, there's less shame and judgment when we experience the dark side of who we are.
Yeah.
Playing out in conversations, snapping at somebody, angry at somebody, all that kind of stuff. And when we honor a little bit more the bright side of who we are and who we contain on our good days and our best days that are still probably possible, imagine how we would greet people very differently. We'd have compassion for the dark side because we recognize it in us because we also contain it. And we have curiosity and excitement about who they might be at their best.
Yeah.
If we recognize it and accept it in us, we can do that for others and what might become possible.
This is a big topic that I think that we need to explore further.
Sure.
We do a part
When
2.
I've read the book.
When I've read the book. Listen, I've really enjoyed the chat that we've had and always enjoy collaborating with you. Loved what you had to share with people at the forum. Look forward to hopefully exploring more opportunities to collaborate together going forward. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation that we've had. If you have, give the Vitamin P podcast a share and a follow on Spotify.
Yeah, I think it's on everything.
It's on everything. Great. Okay. And hopefully, same with Vibrant Workplace podcast. You give it a like and a follow and a share on social media of the episode so we can help to get this story out to as many people as possible. Yeah, thank you. Keep up with, all the work that you're doing because I think you're really making a difference for people. And if people want to reach out to you, if, you said some stuff that resonates with them today, where can they find you?
Just LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Philip Brady or Vitamin P Coaching.
Okay, good stuff. And, if you think that the Vibrant Workplace process could help you in terms of the accelerator that we have, etc., you can find it on my website, vibranttalent.co.uk. Thank you for tuning in today. Hope this has been a useful experience for you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Cheers.